Slipknot's heavy metal cacophony is therapeutic to me. While the 9-piece Des Moines, Iowa-based act may be unlistenable to the average human person, the band's aggressive sound has always had a calming effect on me. Amid guttural screams, chugging guitar riffs, baseball bats, and pounding beer kegs, I attain a sense of zen and inner peace when I listen to their albums. And when compared to other musical acts, Slipknot is the only group that continuously has this effect on me with each album. In fact, it isn't even close. Each of Slipknot's albums can be described as their own separate stage that embodies a specific emotion that the band is trying to channel at the time. I call this phenomenon the 6 stages of Slipknot, and to explain how the band accomplishes this, we first need to dive into some background on the group. Slipknot are one of the way too few modern heavy metal success stories. Hailing from my hometown of Des Moines, Iowa, a locality known for its delectable gas station breakfast pizza, tasty tacos, zombie burgers, and ethanol, the 9 masked musicians are one of the most successful and recognizable metal bands of the last 2 decades, despite overcoming a level of adversity that would have derailed a lesser band. After all, Slipknot had to overcome the new metal stigma, a stench of mostly terrible at best and Limp Bizkit at worst bands that only an oh so few groups were capable of washing off. The band also had their own trials. The group had to endure the death of bassist and co-founding member Paul Gray in 2010. There were a few lineup changes that were pretty ugly, and most turbulently, Slipknot had to endure with each other. 9 angry men with their own artistic egos in need of some soft, sensual stroking. Through it all though, Slipknot are still relevant in modern music, emerging even stronger than before. Even with these issues, and not even to mention lawsuits with Burger King over how the flame-broiled stalker marketed its chicken fries, or how rhythm guitarist Mick Thompson had a knife fight with his brother because hey, shit happens. Even with all these peripheral problems, Slipknot are still touring regularly, playing big venues, headlining huge festivals worldwide. They have their own annual Metal Fest, scored numerous #1 albums and award-winning hits, and their Iowa LP is regularly regarded as among the greatest metal records of its era. All those items are a fairly extensive list of accomplishments for a metal band, especially before we fully dive into the music proper. The music itself is exceptional. Strip away Slipknot's iconic horror-style Halloween masks and legendary live shows, and you're left with a group of talented musicians who've been honing a sonically unique style to near perfection, whilst always pushing the envelope forward. No band sounds like Slipknot. Ever since their 1999 self-titled debut, Slipknot have mixed and matched death metal aggression with soaring alternative rock choruses, alongside a hip-hop aesthetic and the lyrical flow reminiscent of a rap group like Tech 9 jamming a jackhammer into my skull. As a result of Slipknot's varied style, horror show imagery, intense live shows, exceptional musicianship, and storied career, Slipknot's albums are eclectic, each having their own distinct feel and emotional tone, reflecting what the group is feeling at that very moment. And it's here where we finally get into the 6 stages of Slipknot.
I felt the air rise up in me, kneel down and clear the stone of leaves. I wander right where you can't see, inside my shell I wait and bleed. I felt the air rise up in me, kneel down and clear the stone of leaves. I wander right where you can't see, inside my shell I wait and bleed.
To start the first stage of Slipknot, the 1999 self-titled debut is angry and also resonated with those who felt young and lost. The lineup consisting of lead singer Corey Taylor, lead guitarist Jim Root, bassist Paul Gray, lead drummer Joey Jordison, backing percussionist and vocalist Sean Crayon, backing vocalist and percussionist Chris Fiend, rhythm guitarist Mick Thompson, DJ Sid Wilson, and never to forget, sampler, pianist, and quiet creepy fucker Craig Jones. Damn, that guy is fucking creepy. All these men are incredibly talented. In the album, the enemy Slipknot is raging against is the world as a whole. The Masked 9 were furious because they didn't fit in or belong anywhere, and while yes, that is a definite new metal cliche, the wrath that defines Slipknot was and still remains authentic, hence the masks. Slipknot's music and aggressive live performances caught on due to their authenticity and resonance with a huge audience. Even despite embodying late 90s, early 2000s counterculture, their peculiar visual aesthetic and early obsession with scatological humor, actively pissing on stage, Sid Wilson stage diving from high up, and catching a whiff of a dead crow.
Only one of us walks away.
The band became a sensation because of the way they captured a specific type of anger and energy. Their debut album featured songs like Sick, Eyeless, and the breakout hit Wait and Bleed, which were the first parts of the album that combined the feelings of anger and internal confusion. While being unable to fit in with one's peers and be quote-unquote normal is a cliche of the nu metal genre, these songs are so raw that they feel real. The tracks eventually become angrier with surfacing and spit it out as the vocals and instrumentals lash out rather than dwell with their own internal mental strife. The back half of the album ends with a sense of self-acceptance in songs like Only One and Scissors, where the album basically has a form of self-acceptance for one's own weird fucked upness. The sense of acceptance amid this internal confusion and anger defines the first era of Slipknot and primes the listener up for Slipknot's second era. This authenticity is important to remember in Slipknot's 2001 game-changing banger of an album, Iowa. Acting as the second stage of Slipknot, Iowa is a perfect album throttling the listener and forcing them into a journey of pure nihilism. Where the ferocious first album contained elements of self-acceptance, the same can't be said about Iowa, which is an album about how a person's purity and good nature is corrupted until nothing worth saving remains, just like the actual Iowa. The Iowa recording sessions were legendarily brutal and showed Slipknot at their emotional lowest thus far. The album opens with 515, which is Des Moines area code FYI, and in that track, DJ Sid Wilson uncorks his emotion for the first time since his grandfather passed away. The track just lets him leave all of his pain out for the listener to hear. Which then leads into the heavy as hell people equals shit and disaster piece. Early on in the album, the listener receives the impression that Iowa is a heavier album than its predecessor, and over time this assumption is repeatedly proven correct. Where the self-titled debut is filled with moments of self-acceptance, Iowa is pure rage throughout. The album is the angriest collection of songs I've ever heard from front to back. It's an ode of being betrayed by people you trust, and how over time you become the betrayer as well. The back half of Iowa highlights a sense of futility, as if one's own moral decay is inevitable. The final title track, Iowa, is a 15-minute descent into madness that sounds like a heavy metal acid trip. More than just a psychological train wreck, Iowa is the internal sense of rage when no other option is left save for destruction. It's pure rage and agony in the face of moral defeat and corruption. It's the second stage of Slipknot, and it's devastating. Perhaps Slipknot knew that nothing could surpass Iowa in terms of heaviness, which may explain why they didn't try to outdo themselves on their third album. In fact, Slipknot's third stage in 2004's Volume 3, The Subliminal Verses, takes the band in a new direction. And this was the right call by my estimation. With hits like Duality, Vermilion, and the Grammy Award-winning Before I Forget, Slipknot and its lead singer Corey Taylor embark on a more melodic and comparatively upbeat direction about healing and recovery, and also a weird simile about sponges. With Volume 3, The Subliminal Verses, it seemed that for a rare time, Slipknot and its members appear to have some semblance of optimism and hope, of at least trying to heal and get better. Basically like 2008 era Barack Obama. Songs like Duality, The Blister Exists, and Before I Forget show the band in the process of recovery alongside a rare sense of cheerfulness. The band is clearly trying to feel better and be in a better place mentally. fact, in the album, Slipknot appears to be handling their volatile emotions in a healthier way. While the group are still angry and sad, Slipknot clearly wanted to build something more constructive rather than destructive. Songs like Pulse of the Maggots and 3-0 highlight the importance of trying to be an improved version of oneself, even if that attempt results in failure. The message here is to keep trying because everyone is valuable, even if the rest of the world tries to destroy you. And in this regard, the third stage of Slipknot is arguably the most unique because through the pain and anguish, there is hope.
Oh, there are cracks in the road we lay, but where the devil fell, the secrets have gone mad. This is nothing new, but when we kill it all, the end was all we had. Who needs another mess? We could start over. Just look me in the eyes and say I'm wrong. Now there's only emptiness, but I'm missing something. I think we're good. I'm not the only one.
Of course, Slipknot's optimism didn't last by the time their fourth album, All Hope Is Gone, released in 2008. By most metrics, the fourth stage of Slipknot was a tumultuous time for the band, both personally and creatively, and the outcome of this turbulent time was a very disjointed album. Despite being equipped with many essential tracks like Psychosocial, Snuff, Sulfur, and Dead Memories, the songs felt disjointed. Egos in the band were barely being held in check, and All Hope Is Gone suffered due to a lack of artistic cohesion. Like, there are moments where the songs go from like a power ballad to a literal death metal song. The album is undeniably jarring at times.
I still press your letters to my lips and cherish them in parts of me that savor every kiss. I couldn't face a life without your lights. But all of that was ripped apart when you refused to fight.
Admittedly, some of All Hope Is Gone's shortcomings can be attributed to Slipknot trying to find where its style fits in a post-nu metal musical landscape. During this era, many once popular bands began to trend downward. Some people realized that some groups are kind of shit, at least some, and many of the great bands from that era, like System of a Down and Tool, were on lengthy hiatuses. Still, with that said though, that doesn't explain All Hope Is Gone's inconsistency, seeing as Slipknot survived the nu metal implosion and weathered the criticisms of heavy metal purists. And the result of this inconsistency is why All Hope Is Gone is considered Slipknot's worst album. However, with that said, some good did come from the album. As stated, the songs were still good and the album became the first to top the Billboard 200 in the US. Their big tour promoting it was successful and culminated in Slipknot's headlining set in Donington at Download 2009, a concert many consider to be Slipknot's most legendary. Unfortunately for the band, the good times didn't last. In fact, the title, All Hope Is Gone, may have predicted the group's demise. Bassist Paul Gray, one of the founding members, died in 2010 due to an overdose, which prompted the group to take a hiatus of their own. This led to speculation that the Nine were done and wouldn't return. And this is definitely Slipknot at their lowest point. Lower than Iowa because at least there was anger and rage then. Now the group, the one that once preached their own invincibility as the Nine, were down a member and possibly may never be the same again. This melancholy defines the fourth stage of Slipknot.
Step inside, see the devil at night. Too many times we've lived, gone to the night. See the devil at night. You realize I'm not your devil. I'm not your devil anymore.
Eventually, the dust settled and Slipknot emerged alive, albeit wounded, when they hit the stage again on a 2011 memorial tour, and were back in the studio and pulling together an album despite internal struggles where founding member Joey Jordison was fired, and the band had to find new members to fill the holes on their roster, like Jay Weinberg on drums and Alessandro Ventrio on bass. The fifth stage of Slipknot shows the group in pain and grieving, and their fifth album, 2014's Point 5, The Grey Chapter, reflects this. The album was released in honor of their late bandmate and and friend, and Point 5, The Gray Chapter, listens like an improved and more cohesive version of All Hope Is Gone. While songs like Custer and -1 are hard-hitting and polar opposites of a power ballad like Goodbye or the moody singles The Devil and I and Kill Pop, the aesthetic works because the tone is consistent in being morbid and dour. The Gray Chapter successfully mixes depression and rage into a musical statement about grief. In this way, the album is a true memorial to their lost brother in arms.
It's been years since anyone could be a friend. It's the fear that cures the feeling in the end. Can we face it? Can we shape it? Can we really die? If rain is what you want, all you have to do is close your eyes. Just close your eyes.
While Point 5, The Gray Chapter is similarly disjointed like All Hope Is Gone, the melodic and heavy songs work better together here. Grief and depression are an umbrella of different emotions which include anger and sadness, so in that regard, a combination of softer songs and heavier ones work well with this tone. And as a result, the following tours were pretty successful for the band. Slipknot scored another #1 album on the Billboard 200, and this album also kicked off Slipknot's first annual metal fest dubbed Knotfest. With Point 5, The Gray Chapter, the mighty Slipknot signaled that they were back and enjoying success even though they were limping across the finish line. This pain and grief embodies the 5th stage of Slipknot. Since the release of Point 5, The Gray Chapter, Slipknot toured on and off and were creatively quiet for 9 Men until 2018 with the Halloween track All Out Life, which became a big hit, which led to Slipknot's upward trajectory in 2019. Despite losing backing percussionist Chris Fiend due to him suing the band for monetary reasons and being replaced by a new mystery member dubbed Tortilla Man, yes, really, Slipknot have roared back in 2019. In fact, they're arguably the most popular that they've ever been, and even more importantly, the group's music is still great, as evidenced by their newly released 6th album, We Are Not Your Kind, which is the 6th and current stage of Slipknot. To be perfectly blunt, We Are Not Your Kind is possibly the Knot's best album in terms of how it infuses all the known elements of Slipknot, like the cathartic rage and vocal harmony that gives the band such a lasting appeal. Similar to prior Slipknot albums, We Are Not Your Kind has its own emotional feel to it. Thematically, it's a combination of Iowa and Volume 3, the subliminal verses, matching Iowa in ferocity while embodying the same never give up spirit as Volume 3. We Are Not Your Kind shows Slipknot grappling with tumultuous personal and political issues, and the album is an eclectic mix held together through downward spiral levels of experimentation, exceptional songwriting, and a cohesive theme. From the catchy yet hard-hitting single Unsainted to the brutal ending Solway Firth, the LP is a sonic gut punch.
I don't need you to do it for me. I don't need you to understand. I don't need you to hide it from me. I think we'll feel like giving out the man. I won't show you the whole right. I won't show you the aftermath. I won't show you my allegory. Don't look away. It's an unexplainable word.
While being somewhat similar, We Are Not Your Kind preaches a new message separate from both Iowa's level of total war style of self-destructive rage and Volume 3's healing process of optimistic hope. We Are Not Your Kind is instead about persevering in the face of all the world's bullshit. Despite all the forces trying to tear us down, Slipknot is telling us to be resilient, survive the bullshit storm so that we can continue to fight another day. It's about weathering the knockout punch and getting back up to raise hell at those who desire to bring us down. We Are Not Your Kind is great and a fitting capstone to Slipknot's current career arc. In fact, as proven with the eras of the hopeless All Hope Is Gone and the grief-stricken Point 5, The Gray Chapter, Slipknot had to be resilient and survive the turmoil of losing a band member and a friend in traumatic fashion. We Are Not Your Kind literally shows the band weathering this tumultuous storm so that they can survive and fight back. And this defines the 6th and currently final stage of Slipknot.
Push my fingers and chill my eyes.
Slipknot's appeal can be described as such. Their sound, as intense as it is, took volatile emotions and packaged them into musical form. And as a result, all 6 of their albums hit different types of resonance with me. When I'm nihilistically angry, I listen to Iowa. When I'm trying to heal, I'll listen to Volume 3, The Subliminal Verses. When grief-stricken, I'll listen to The Gray Chapter. When mopey and hopeless, I'll listen to All Hope Is Gone. When I'm angry at the world for mistreating me, but still proud of who I am, I'll listen to Self-Titled. And with the world doing its best to piss me off and take me down, I'll give We Are Not Your Kind a whirl due to my internal sense of resilience. Because all these albums are symbolic of a specific emotion, and because those are the 6 stages of Slipknot thus far, whether it's the band, you, or me, we have all endured tough times, yet we are also still here. Hey y'all, I'd just like to thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please like, share, subscribe, comment, ring the bell, and for my very special patrons, I want to say thank you, especially to Slasher of Veils and my mom. Love you guys. Thank you for supporting what I do. Thank you so much.